Good evening. Glad you're here with me. Give it just another minute and then I'll get started because I don't want to waste your time if you were here on a timely basis. I appreciate you joining me tonight. How has your day been? Good one? Good start to a week? All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm hoping I won't get too many things popping in on my screen because I will be sharing it soon. I think both of you know what I do as a certified health coach and functional medicine practitioner. I work with clients to discover the root causes of what is causing the symptoms that they're experiencing. That the symptoms are your body's message, your body's messages and alarms and cries for help in trying to bring balance back to your body. And rather than just squelch those symptoms with medications that make them feel better, I use those symptoms as messages and interpret them to find out what's going on inside and help you support your body in redirecting that to wellness. But I'm excited to share with you tonight about using a cleanse to be a part of your pursuit of wellness. I think it's important for us to do this at least once a year, if not twice a year, just to make sure that we're keeping things moving properly and properly filtering. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and then we will get underway. All right. So I welcome you to unmute yourself. There are going to be a couple times where I will ask for input and response. You can unmute by looking down, moving your cursor to the lower left of your screen and seeing the microphone and clicking on that to unmute. But I'm wondering how you would see your health represented by this iceberg. I often use an iceberg as a visible representation of our health. How would you see that representing your health? What do you see as portrayed in an iceberg? Anyone care to unmute and answer? Offer what you see. Okay, then I will go ahead and tell you what I have in mind. With an iceberg, when we're on the ocean in a boat, all we see is that visible portion. We don't see the extent of the iceberg under the water unless we actually go diving, whether it be in scuba gear or in a submarine. But this represents to me the way your body's health is presented to the world. What we see is the outside of the body, the symptoms of the body. That's what you see above the surface, in essence. But there's so much more going on underneath, so much more happening inside the body in all its major systems and all their interconnectedness in those systems. I do not view optimal health as being complicated. It actually has three pillars in optimal health. One is to maximize the raw materials that your body needs to function and heal itself. That would be vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, proteins, healthy fats, the foods and the nutrients we're supposed to get from our food. We need to minimize what is toxic to our bodies. In other words, we need to minimize toxins, infections, allergens, and stress. And probably today, toxins and stress are our greatest challenges that we need to work to minimize in our lives. And then lastly, we need to prioritize an environment for healing. And this would involve sleep, laughter, stress reduction, meaningful relationships, and satisfying activities, satisfying purpose in our life are all parts of an environment for healing in our bodies. The problem is we're not so great at doing all three of these, at the maximize, minimize, and prioritize parts. And the result is chronic disease. So the typical American lifestyle is centered around a nutrient-poor diet that's low in fruits and vegetables, that's high in processed foods, sugar, preservatives, and trans fats, and that involves a lot of chemical additives and hormone and drug-laden animal foods. But it also incorporates a high level of stress, a lack of sleep, and often numbing entertainment. It doesn't engage the brain, doesn't invite the whole body to experience, but is very numbing in our senses. We also have an unprecedented exposure to toxins from our air, from the water, from the foods we're eating, the drugs we're taking, the soil, the playgrounds and furniture. We don't think about toxins in our playgrounds and our furniture. Even in many of our clothing, we will have, if you have, you think of sleep clothing as having a lot of flame retardants, or maybe linens that would be having flame retardants, and those are all toxins to our bodies. And then there's a growing risk of infection because we have used antibiotics for so long that it's created the opportunity for superbugs. And we've heard about these in the media, I'm sure, that antibiotics that are bacteria and viruses that are resistant to antibiotics. And the result here is chronic inflammation. That's a challenge for our bodies. Now, inflammation really is not the bad guy. We think of inflammation as warning and alert, but it actually has both good and bad parts to it. It is a part of triage and healing, which is the good side of it. If you have a cut, if you injure yourself in some way, that part of your body is going to get a little bit red and hot, swollen. That is inflammation bringing in all the aspects of your body's physiology that will help the healing process. And in that case, inflammation is good. But if that inflammation continues out of control or becomes chronic, then it can be dangerous. And interestingly enough, everything you eat, breathe, drink, do, and think cause your cells to secrete communication chemicals, which can either calm the body, in other words, suppressing inflammation, or alarm the body, increasing the inflammation. Does any of this surprise you? Are you surprised to know about every cell secreting communication chemicals and that it's controlled even by your thoughts? That's quite surprising for many people. Now, chronic inflammation systems or symptoms are, oddly enough, often what we think of as just getting old, symptoms of getting old. How many of these, swollen joints, aching muscles, GERD or acid reflux, congestion, headaches, diarrhea, lethargy, constipation, ongoing fatigue or skin rashes, bloating, poor memory, irritability, or brain fog, how many of these do you actually experience? And have you thought of it as just a sign of your aging? Or have you really considered it to be a symptom of inflammation? There was an interesting study published in 2004 where participants were fed Egg McMuffins and hash browns, a very common fast food breakfast. And then the physiological effects were measured, and they found significant increase in what is called NF-kappa B, nuclear factor kappa B, where the cells were secreting inflammatory chemicals, which increased their overall inflammation level in the body, and the CRP, or C-reactive protein levels, were also increased. Now, C-reactive protein is significant because it is an independent marker of cardiovascular disease. So here, these people were eating a basic fast food breakfast, and within an hour of eating the meal, they were already showing the increase in NF-kappa B and an increase in CRP, or C-reactive protein, basically showing inflammation increase. And that effect lasted over 3 hours. Well, if it started an hour after the meal and it lasted more than 3 hours, it's bumped into the next meal time. And then you're subject to whatever the next meal choice was, and whether it continued the process of increasing NF-kappa B and CRP and raising levels of inflammation in the body. And this is only one example of how our lifestyle can tend to affect our bodies. So why does your body need to detox? When you change the oil in your car's filter, or your car, you also change the oil filter to be able to make that filter clean and keep the oil as fresh as possible. We aren't given the privilege of a removable filter in our bodies. Instead, the liver, which is our primary filtering system, needs to be supported in its own filtration. And so the body needs to detox not only what comes in from the outside of the body, and that's all those toxins and issues that we talked about earlier, but also what is created and generated within the body. Because on the normal process of cells either fighting inflammation, that increases free radicals, or fighting injury, it increases free radicals. There's a lot of different things going on in our body that create toxins that need to be removed from our body. There's not only the free radicals, but excess hormones. Whether we have excess vitamin D, which by the way is a hormone, or excess estrogen, or we just need to get out the bisphenol A, the pesticides, the mercury, and the medications out of our body because those have come in from outside. So all of those need to be detoxed from our body. Now, we've been encouraged to appreciate the life that we have and all the benefits of the chemicals that we have at our disposal. The U.S. federal inventory of chemicals includes over 85,000. And I found it very interesting to discover that less than 1% of those known chemicals have had any safety testing. That's kind of scary because we enjoy the benefits and tend to assume safety in the chemicals that we're subjected to or that we utilize by choice. But pesticide use in our farming environment has tripled in the past 50 years. And over half of these pesticides and generally in chemicals in general are classified as endocrine disruptors. That's a little bit scary. And what do you think is the human impact of all these chemicals that we are exposed to? Now, we don't know that we're exposed to all 85,000 in a day, but over a lifetime, I'm certain we are exposed to the majority of those. And on a daily basis, we certainly are exposed as well. You see, the toxins are everywhere. We see them in factories, in our cleaning products, in the vaccines that we readily take to protect us against disease. They have toxins and heavy metals in them. Cigarette smoke, high fructose corn syrup actually has been shown to contain a lot of added mercury just from the processing of the corn syrup. If you have fillings in your mouth, you have toxins being released on a regular basis as you chew and consume cold and hot foods. If you have lead piping in an old building, you're being exposed to toxins, and what's hidden behind the visual panel is a can that represents the BPA that our cans are lined with, so that whenever you are consuming food out of a can, you're getting exposed to toxins. And if you're consuming seafood, such as tuna, you're often being exposed to extra toxins, which also include heavy metals. And that's a concern because heavy metals are harder for our body to detox. Then we add in estrogen mimickers. And an estrogen mimicker is something that our body reads as equivalent to the hormones, the estrogen hormones in our body, but it can take us to estrogen overload that begins to take over our system, to influence our hormone operating system. These can include BPA in our can linings or in microwave popcorn. Can also include glyphosate in a popular Roundup pesticide, which we are heavily exposed to, even if you don't use Roundup in your garden or your yard. If you are eating general foods that include wheat and grains, you are exposed to glyphosate. And then a lot of us use hand sanitizer to try to kill off bacteria, and we are exposing ourselves often to triclosan, which is an estrogen mimicker. All of these can disrupt the function of your body and affect your blood sugar balance, which can lead you to pre-diabetes or diabetes. But never fear, your body has a liver. And the liver is an amazing organ that handles a tremendous load in your system. And one of its primary jobs is to work with toxins and detoxification. You see, toxins are fat soluble, and in phase 1 of detoxification in your liver, those toxins are being turned into an intermediate stage, less fat soluble, and then phase 2 turns them into water soluble so that they can be eliminated through your skin and sweat, or through the kidneys and urine, or bile into your feces and stool. The key is to get the toxins out. Now, unfortunately, our common American lifestyle supports phase 1, but not so much phase 2. And in phase 1, as I mentioned, fat-soluble toxins are turned into intermediate compounds, but this process creates free radicals, which is another aspect that needs to be removed from the body. And then phase 2 takes those intermediate compounds into water-soluble compounds for excretion. What happens if the body can't do phase 2, if it's lacking the nutrients and the support that it needs for phase 2, those phase 1 toxins and those intermediate compounds, the free radicals that are created, just continue to circulate in the body. Now, your body is actually detoxifying 24/7 all the time. We think that while we're sleeping, not much is going on, but that is one of the primary times when your liver regenerates and your body is detoxifying. It begins in the gut lining and it continues in your liver. And the focus, as I said, is on taking fat-soluble toxins and turning them into water-soluble so they can be removed. But what's interesting is if your body cannot remove those fat-soluble toxins, they tend to be shunted into safe storage in adipose tissue, or your fat cells. There is a theory that I find very interesting, that one reason some people find it's very difficult to lose weight is because their body is actually highly toxic, and it's protecting itself from toxicity by holding on to the fat cells that they're trying to get rid of. Often when I work with someone on weight loss, we have to be careful to be aware of any detox effects that they're also getting. So the answer, the problem is in having those excess free radicals that can cause inflammation, but the answer for needing to support detox is in following a focused cleanse that follows the optimal health method or model. So we start off by maximizing, loading up the body with foods that are nutrient dense and anti-inflammatory, and reducing the burden on your digestive system. We need to release your digestive system from struggling through the process to make it easier for the body to process. And in doing this, in my cleanse model, we also incorporate supplements that are needed to support this detox. And that would include what's called a medical food. It would be something like a protein powder, but it's actually designed medically to support provision of protein, but also extra nutrients to support metabolism. And then Advoclear is a supplement that is both supportive in regular multivitamin nutrients, but also especially provides the nutrients that are supported for phase 1 and phase 2. Next, we need to minimize those typical inflammatory foods. So you're not going to be eating that fast food breakfast at McDonald's or wherever, because we already saw the study that said that it's inflammatory. We're going to be removing foods that are commonly part of food sensitivities. So we will omit dairy and eggs, nuts, wheat, corn, and soy, because these are some of the top food sensitivities that people have without even realizing it. We're also going to remove potent opioids. You may not have ever thought of sugar and salt, fat, gluten, and dairy as opiates, but in your body they can process that way. Sugar definitely can influence the brain as an opiate drug can. Salt and fat can also influence cravings and desire that are based on your brain signals or your gut signals. And gluten becomes very quickly a sugar in your body, so it needs to be removed. And dairy causes a lot of issues for many people as well. And lastly, we're going to remove central nervous system depressants, primarily in the form of alcohol. Now, the third part of our model is prioritizing. And so we're going to prioritize good sleep and make the most of the sleep opportunities we have, because, as I said, during sleep, the liver is regenerating. The liver is doing a lot of its processing work, and so we need to support that function in our body. We're also going to prioritize stress reduction, talking in a variety of ways of how we can reduce that stress level, whether it's breathing better or relaxing and meditating. There's a variety of ways we'll talk about doing that. Then we have consuming plenty of clean water, because once we get those toxins over to water-soluble form, we want to flush them out of our system. And lastly, we want to make sure that we are eliminating on a daily basis to be sure that toxins that come through the liver and the bile system are eliminated through our stools. So there's a lot of things we're going to be working on, but it's a step-by-step process. So the Cleanse to Pursue Wellness is a 10-day program that would be beginning on March 19th. That's when the group program would start. You have the option of starting a little bit early or a little bit later if you prefer, but the group will actually start with day 1 on the 19th of March and finish before Easter. So that I worked on the timing to get us doing the harder days over a weekend and then being completely done before Easter time. We will follow a progressive elimination diet, meaning you're not going to cut everything out all at the first day. You're going to cut some things out on the first day and then more the second and the third and the fourth, etc. So we'll slowly be eliminating foods, and then we'll add those back at the end of the cleanse. I will provide recipes and daily outlines for you. I will also provide daily progress emails. So you will receive an email each morning that will give you hints on the day and guidelines and encouragement, and ask for your feedback as well as we go through the program. You'll have the community support of a private Facebook group. So there will be several in a private Facebook group. You can choose to be there or not, but I do find that changes are easily done when we're in a group. And so I will provide that community support in a private Facebook group. That way, as I answer your questions, others in the group can also see the answers and it generally tends to help everyone understand better together. And lastly, you'll have the support of a health coach via email or text. So you've got, excuse me, you've got access to me, whether you text me or email me with your questions, and I'll be attentive to responding to you as quickly as possible so that you've got answers to your questions as you go through. I don't want you to feel like you're just handed the program and sent off on your own. Each person is going to have different experiences. Each person will need different levels of support, and I will be there for you. Now, the cleanse program itself is $97, but there will be those 2 supplements that you need to purchase. My plan is if we get enough people in the cleanse, I can pre-order the supplements for delivery here in Slidell, and then I can disseminate those. And by being able to do that, I can cut the cost of your supplements, so it would be approximately $100 for the supplements in addition to the $97 program fee. If you are outside of the Slidell area, then, or if we do not get enough people for me to pre-order in bulk, then we'll be ordering through FullScript, and the cleanse program content, or those supplements, are about $120 through the FullScript program. So if there are any questions that you have, I want to open it up for you. I do have a link for you to sign up for the cleanse here below in the center of the page. But does anyone have any questions about how we'll be going ahead or going through this process? You're welcome to unmute yourself and ask your questions. No questions at this point, huh? Okay. Let me give you my number. It's 985-768-8898 is my cell number. If you do have questions after the webinar and you wanted to ask some more, please feel free to contact me. I do encourage you, if you are considering getting in on the cleanse, that you sign up quickly so that I've got time to amass our order and put in the order and have it by next week so that you'll have it plenty of time before the start. The 19th is 2 weeks from today, so that does give us some prep time, and I would plan to send out the materials to you early next week so that you've got time to look them over and review them and consider your approach and ask any other questions you have. Then I will open up the Facebook group toward the end of the week, and we will start the process of eliminating alcohol and coffee and tea, those different things that increase inflammation or affect your central nervous system, so we can start to wean those off before we actually start the cleanse. I do look forward to the results you will have. I look forward to increased energy, clarity of thought. Many people find that they no longer have joint pain or muscle aches that they had before. The results, the individual experiences widely vary, but most people experience a lot of energy boost and clearer thinking and less pain in their joints as a part of doing the cleanse. You can always extend the cleanse a little bit longer if you wish, and I'd be glad to advise you that way. But I think starting off with a 10-day cleanse is usually a good chunk to start off with, and it brings success for most of my clients. So I thank you for being here this evening. I thank you for giving me your time. I look forward to working with you and supporting you in the cleanse, and I wish you all the best. Have a great week. I look forward to hearing your questions and supporting you as we get started. So let me come out of this. Just double check one more time that you don't have any questions before I close the meeting. I will be sending out a recording if you have any other questions, and I will probably post this so that others can listen to the webinar as well. If there are any that maybe you talked to that wish they had been here, you can share the webinar recording link with them. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate you being here tonight. Thanks for supporting yourself in your pursuit of wellness and for being here with me. Good night.